On the latest episode of Hard Knocks offseason featuring the New York Giants, we got a behind-the-scenes look at Giants GM Joe Schoen and former Giants running back Saquon Barkley's conversation in free agency. After franchise tagging Saquon the year prior, a decision had to be made on how to move forward for this season. Please listen to this.
I just talked to Ed Barry, and I think just mulling over this, the right thing to do is let you test the market and see what your value is. I don't want to do the franchise thing or all that stuff again. I don't want to go through that. We've both been through that. You know, if you really want to be a Giant for life and you're interested in staying here and coming back, just see what your market is and then have Ed come back to us, and we'll see if we can come to an agreement.
All right, I appreciate that.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Can you give me your word on that, or you're not going to give us a chance?
What do you mean? I'm circling back?
Yeah.
I mean, I already told you where I want to be, so.
Okay. All right. Well, let's do that. We'll go out and see what the market says.
That just made me so angry.
That's your squad, Molly.
Sorry.
That's your team.
Mina Kimes, Mike Tannenbaum. Seriously though, just on speakerphone. Like, go take a spin around the block. Check back with me. Maybe I'll be interested in you then, but not sure. Let's see how it goes. Like, and are you good with that? You'll agree to that. Like, okay. All right. Mike T, this isn't about me, though. I ask the questions. I don't answer them. Did the Giants make a mistake with the Saquon negotiation and also just airing out that dirty laundry by Joe Schoen and how he handled it?
Yes, it was a massive mistake, Molly, and I can't understand if I'm the Giants why I'd want to be in an off-season program featuring all these really difficult conversations. But context is everything. They had a year to get Saquon Barkley signed. That conversation was not necessary. If they really wanted to have him be a Giant for life, so to speak, they could have figured out a deal over the past year. And context here is everything. He signed for 2% of a $255 million salary cap. And fundamentally, Molly, I am hard-pressed to understand when you have a productive, high-character, 27-year-old running back who also has 288 receptions that you don't think allocating 2% of your salary cap doesn't help Daniel Jones in what is a massively transformational year for the Giants in terms of are they going to stick with Daniel Jones or not. So it shouldn't have come to that phone call, and I don't understand fundamentally why they wouldn't have wanted to sign Barkley for $12 million a year, which again is only 2% of their cap.
Mina, before we come to you, let me also add, he's also the face of the team. And I feel like Saquon couldn't have handled that situation better. He was like, thank you so much. Yeah. He couldn't have been more diplomatic. And yes, of course, I'll circle back with you. It didn't feel like much of a partnership.
He came across really well. I don't think that Joe Schoen, the GM, came across poorly there. It's awkward, but those awkward conversations happen all of the time between members of NFL front offices and players, and I guarantee you they're often worded very similarly to what we saw there. I also don't begrudge them not getting a deal done with Saquon this offseason, matching what the Eagles gave him, which was a pretty rich contract for a running back. Where I object, where I criticize the Giants is the prior offseason when they gave Daniel Jones the big contract and chose to tag Saquon. That was the original sin, the mistake here, especially if you consider had they done the reverse, as many people, myself included, advocated for, franchise tagging Daniel Jones and then giving Saquon a multi-year contract instead, the position they would have been now coming into the draft, let's go back to then, they would have moved on from Daniel Jones undeniably after a single year on the tag, and you would have gone into this offseason with Saquon Barkley, flexibility at the quarterback position, ton of cap space. Maybe they would have spent that draft pick on a quarterback. Maybe they would have drafted Malik Neighbors and signed a quarterback. I don't know, but they wouldn't be in the position they're in now with a player in Daniel Jones who, on a relative basis, when you consider his position, is clearly the inferior player.
This video makes me nauseous. It really does. And here's why, because I've done Hard Knocks before, and I know everything has to go through the head coach before you put things out there. And for them to play this video, for the world to see, and to not think they're going to get pushback from it, this could cost Joe Schoen his job. It really can. Now, I already think it's up for grabs because if they don't have a good season, which I don't believe they will, he has an opportunity to be out of there. But for a player like Saquon Barkley, who's the face of your franchise, does everything right, didn't cause a ruckus, came to training camp last season, is a leader in your locker room. If I'm another player on that team, I'm saying to myself, well, damn, if I do everything the right way, am I going to get treated that way? Like the New York Giants treated Saquon Barkley? And then you ask him to give you his word. Okay, we're in a relationship, and I'm going to tell you to go out there and see if you like another young man. And if you like that young man, come back and let me know, because maybe I may like you a little bit better.
Yeah.
Please
I
stop.
thought that was foul at the end. Like,
Come on,
he
man.
needs to give it. It
Market.
felt so one-sided. Mina, how poorly do you think the Giants are going to look if the Eagles just, like, beat the brakes off them like people are expecting and Saquon balls out?
Yeah, it'll be a tough look, and it'll also, again, it wouldn't be like if you reverse the situation and Saquon had stayed with the Giants that it wouldn't happen. Saquon's likely to flourish in Philadelphia, not just because of his individual skills, but because he will go from running behind arguably the worst run-blocking offensive line in football to arguably the best. We'll see what they look like without Jason Kelce. So we already know he's going to look good in Philadelphia, and it's going to hurt because it's a division rival. But to go back to, Harry's point about the breakup and Mike's comment on those conversations, I don't want to belabor this point about the problem being the previous offseason, but I guarantee you the things that were said between these two parties, the conversations had in New York that offseason, when they were making what was a very difficult decision, or a much more fraught decision, rather, was probably a lot nastier. This, to me, felt like a foregone conclusion. They were just kind of signing the paperwork and sending it off. Nobody in that conversation actually believed Saquon Barkley was returning to the Giants.
This kind of reminds me a little bit of, A.J. Brown when he was in Tennessee. And John Robinson decided to let him walk and trade him to the Philadelphia Eagles. But then the Tennessee Titans played the Philadelphia Eagles, and A.J. Brown had 8 catches for 119 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he spoke to the media afterwards, and, he said what he said. I think that was the downfall of John Robinson, letting A.J. Brown go. This could also be the downfall when we talk about Joe Schoen and his future moving forward as the GM of the Giants.
Can we pull up that full screen one more time, and just in terms of it was showing Saquon's impact on offense? Mina, when we're looking at the percentages, I think it was like touches, he was 39%, yards from scrimmage, 26%. Yeah. We'll get that wallpaper for you in a second. Scrimmage TDs, 32%. Was this, there it is, was this the right move by the Giants from a football perspective? Let's take feelings out of it to let him go.
No, I don't think it was. And it certainly wasn't, again, when you go back to the prior season, because when you consider the year they had with Daniel Jones, where he was successful, where the offense was efficient, when they won a playoff game that ultimately led to what I believe to be the incorrect decision to pay Daniel Jones, much of that was predicated on the fact that this was a very devastating ground game. Daniel Jones himself benefited as a rusher from the presence of Saquon Barkley in the backfield. The whole thing was built around Saquon. Now, not only do you have to get better play out of Daniel Jones, they're rebuilding this entire offense. They're not going to be a dominant rushing attack. You draft Malik Neighbors, who's a player I love, but you're going to have to attack through the air. It's going to have to work very differently from how it did, in the year where they were successful.